What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to another SLA video. All right, guys, we are live on YouTube currently doing our testing for MIYEON versus Thomas and just seeing how she does overall. So we're going to give you guys some results in where she stands and what you should do in terms of pulling for her. We did the usual A1 testing to A2 testing, then we went straight to A5, did A8, and then we're getting some results with different sets of gear so you guys can know which results are the best. Now, just so everyone is aware, Thomas versus her is the main goal here, just to see if Thomas's buffs were enough. So we're going to talk a little bit about the numbers, explain to you what we did in terms of sets, stats, etc., and how we balance this out to see who is the better unit where. I can tell you right now, it's not a huge power creep to Thomas, but in certain modes, Thomas does get kind of stomped pretty badly. So let's go ahead and do this real quick and we'll talk a little bit about it and go for it. Now, just so you are aware, I am comparing an A8. That's where I'm stopping because we get the free copies of the units. And with an A8 weapon, again, that's where we get copies of the free unit compared to an A10. Okay, so there's a little bit of a difference in regards to percentages and stats. Roughly about, maybe after diminishing returns, probably about 8%, but it's not substantial, okay? So we use them in two different modes, with various different results. Okay, so we're going to talk about those results right now and kind of give you guys a general sense of what to look for. So the first thing we did was show her stats. I'm going to go and zoom in a bit right here. So this is MIYEON's stats. She had 99% precision, 45k defense, 45.5k, 50% crit, 191% crit damage, 29% damage increase. Okay, that was her stats. She was using Iron Will with Obsidian, and then Thomas the same thing. We try to get him as close as we possibly could to Iron Will and Obsidian as well, and his stats were about 44k, so about a 1k less, and he had everything else very close, except his crit damage was much higher. He had 217% crit damage, but he had a little bit lower in damage increase. So at A1, Thomas was doing better, but this is A1 versus A10. Okay, now this again is Iron Will with Obsidian. Okay, so A1, she did 1.8, he did 2.7 in POD. Now go over to A2. She did 1.9, he did 2.7. Now, this is good because we saw the results are very, very consistent with Thomas, 2.75, 2.74. And she had, with A2, I believe, gets 15% more light damage. So her numbers went up a little bit as well, too. Of course, a little RNG in the way. It might have been a little bit higher. But nonetheless, A2 does work. I don't know if she's getting the full 15% or not. There might be some diminishing returns there. But at the end of the day, you are still getting an increase in results. So A2 is not a bad option. All right, now we went to A3 and A4. A3... she was still a little bit below. We kind of skipped it because Thomas had the wrong gear on. And then we went straight to A5. Now with A5, Thomas and her are pretty much evened out with Obsidian and Iron Will. Okay, very evened out. At A8, again, very evened out. Now what seems to be the problem here is the gear itself. Okay, the gear itself is the issue. Thomas excels with Iron Will. In Obsidian, she actually does not do well with Iron Will Obsidian. So what we did instead is we swapped the gear out and made a very, very exact same setup for Infamy. Okay, so we did A-piece Infamy for her. You guys can see the stats here, 2.9k precision, still at 99%, 41.7k defense, 50% crit, 195 crit damage, and then evened out with 24 and 21% for defense, pen, and damage increase. And then we did the same thing with Thomas. So 43k versus 42k, a little bit higher on defense for Thomas. His crit rate skyrocket, but we don't care about that. That's irrelevant. 184 versus 195, 23 versus 24, and then 23 versus 21. So there's a little bit of a balance as we could get. We did as much as we possibly could. Now, this is where the craziness started happening. In POD, when you put Infamy on her and she gets that bonus buff, her damage just skyrockets. You guys can see right away we're at 6.3 versus 3.4. As a matter of fact, Thomas did worse with Infamy because he already gets that bonus, team bonus, and that diminishing return on team bonus is big for him. So it doesn't actually help him in any way, shape, or form because at the end of the day, he's really an ultimate core hitter and he's an ultimate skill user, right? So Infamy doesn't work that well with A-piece for him. So he actually lost damage, but she went up a lot. She went to 6.3. Now, we did the opposite effect. We took that off and we did A-piece Infamy for her and then went back to 4-piece Iron Will and 4-piece Obsidian. His damage went up a little bit. Now, the reason why this is happening outside of just the set, okay, the reason why this is happening is her animations are so fast at breaking the arms, and I'll show you guys real quick in the game, that it's really hard for Thomas to keep up with her. So I'm going to jump in here real quick. I'm going to show you guys how fast she breaks the arms. And you'll see what I'm talking about, right? So you guys can see right here, Iron Will, Obsidian. We'll just jump in, and you guys can watch the whole fight. And at the end of the day, she is the main, like the dragon doesn't even get a chance to get up. She just breaks the arms that quickly, right? So I'll show you right now real quick. You can see this. Lapino TV, you can see the stats afterwards. I always put the spreadsheet up for you guys so you guys can see the stats afterwards, okay, on the spreadsheet. So here you guys go. Remember, the spreadsheet is always linked in every video, guys. You guys can go in and take a look at any time. So check this out. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to just stand still and just kind of let them do their thing, all right? And you're going to see how quickly she breaks the arms. Now, Thomas misses a lot of ults here as well. So for POD, he's not the greatest to use, right? So unfortunately, okay, we're going to break here. Okay. Now you're going to see them start rolling very soon. Let's just see. Hopefully this works. Watch it be a bad example, but if you go back and check out the live stream, you'll see she pretty much breaks the arms almost at every turn by herself. There it is. See, look right there. Arms come up, arms go down. And this is all of her statues and all of her damage just going through. So she consistently has the ability to do this. And Thomas, unfortunately, because he's a little bit slower in animation, just doesn't have that same opportunity to do the same amount. Look at that. Right away. Not even a chance to do anything. Like, she instantly breaks those arms. So that quick animation makes her a much better POD unit. In POD, she absolutely excels. And she will 100% beat out Thomas with the proper set. So that's one of the reasons why you're going to see her do there. Now, let's go back for a second. And let's talk a little bit about the results in Guild Boss. All right. So you guys can see, again, POD versus Infamy. Pretty straightforward, right? All right, now for Guild Boss, it's a little bit different. We went 8-piece Infamy test on both of them. This time we used Akari instead as a buffer instead of Gun He. And you guys can see it's a little bit closer. With Infamy and Infamy, she still did beat him out a little bit, right? So right there, right there. There you go, Lemon. So here you guys go right over here. Infamy, again, showing that Thomas just has way too many diminishing returns on that, all right? Now, if we go over to the right, and we switch it now from Infamy versus Iron Set, Thomas actually does better in Guild Boss. We did this numerous times, and Thomas did come out on top. We did a Kari test, and then we did a Gun He test, and both tests showed that Thomas, with Iron Will, does better. Now, the reason for this is that Guild Boss does move a lot, and because she has a lot of stationary movement, she can't keep up with the Guild Boss, with Fakna specifically. Now, this may change a lot with the Ant Queen, because the Ant Queen is a lot more stationary than Fakna, but Fakna's movement does mess up the amount of animations and not slow animation, but the standstill animations that she has. So POD is perfect for her because the dragon doesn't really move much, right? You can see you're still getting his butt kicked. But for Fakna, she actually has a hard time keeping up with him because her animations are short, but they're very, very stationary. So that's where Thomas does a little bit better in the Guild Boss section. So depending on what you want to focus on, you can do either POD, do better with her. If your focus is more Guild Boss and you want to focus on getting points there, then Thomas is still really, really good there because of the buffs they provided. And when it comes down to solo content, I honestly feel like they're both going to be fine. You'll be okay with either or. If you're a newer player, MIYEON might be the path you want to go just because she has so much to offer and she's easier acquisition than Thomas is right now. But for a veteran player who has Thomas, you may want to consider still sticking with Thomas. Unless POD is your main focus, then you will absolutely do better with her with the Infamy set. So there you guys go. I hope that kind of gives you what you need. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Shuha testing coming up next.